Action, sir.
Wow.
Is that you?
I thought you were doing like
After
a kobold
all this
thing.
time, pardon?
I thought you were starting as a kobold thing. You came in with like a... Or you were doing a Geralt. I couldn't tell which way you were going to go with it.
Action surge.
Yeah. And then
Come on, action surge.
then you picked it up and then...
I like an action surge.
It's good. It was impressive.
Action surge and gooseberry.
I love that you said at the beginning of this, you were like, I'm quite tired. I've made you just do a number of different voices, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, so episode 25. Well, I mean, we talked about it being a quarter-life crisis, and I know I said it in the end of the app. I mean, we are like 5 minutes from the end of the app. It did feel a bit that way.
Thanks, Stu.
It was very, some confrontations in the party.
Yeah.
Some tough conversation.
What is going on?
That seemed
with Raidion and
nasty.
Dolly?
It seemed nasty.
Of course. I mean, what is it like to leave? Has it ever happened before that you've left the room for a conversation between two people, or has it always been between one player and me?
No,
We have had a moment. We have had a moment, yeah.
on
You
the
two.
rooftop of
The
Gwenmere Estate.
Yeah.
We had a glass of wine and we talked about how we should reply to the Spider Prince.
Oh, yeah.
Which I did. Well, I
That's where
replied
we
to
learned
sending
a little bit
today.
about...
But we
we're
didn't
from.
leave the room for that, did we?
No, I think you did. I think
Yeah,
it was
we
just
did.
the two of
Yeah.
us.
Did we?
Yeah.
So I think that means now, maybe that means at this point that Dolly has Dolly overtaken Elowin for secret conversations?
No.
I've had two.
Yeah.
You've had three.
Three with
You
Dolly,
had
so two on my
four.
own.
You had Casper and you had two with
Oh yes, I
two
forgot
with
about that
Derwin.
one.
So you've had so you've had more than your fair share.
Yeah,
How
no,
does it
I'm
feel when
good.
the shoe's on the other foot?
You know what? It's every other time we've walked back in, for me, it's what's between me and an NPC, so it's a bit like whatever. It doesn't really necessarily change the dynamics of the group. Us three walking back in on that, it was nasty. Like, you had clearly fought. That was, you can take that away. And that was such a big...
It was thick. The atmosphere was thick. Thick.
So thick.
With all them
Three,
CHICs.
at least three C's.
This is an interesting one because I'd be interested to see if you guys will ever find out what that conversation is about. I imagine eventually.
I would have. I think
Yeah.
it like...
Not.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just like meta-narrating here, and I'm certainly not going to force the issue, but I feel like it gets to a point necessarily where a group has no secrets from each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we are 25 eps in. I certainly don't consider us to be even halfway through
That's good to hear.
the whole story. So do you know what I mean? If come episode 90, you guys are still being like, there are things about me you don't know.
Yeah.
I'd suggest you might be playing those cards a bit too close to your chest.
Yeah.
Because
It's
by that
time to
like,
get drunk.
Yeah, because by that point we will be 1,800 hours into a story.
I think if the two of you can maintain the group dynamics enough that we can continue to move forward, you could arguably get away with never telling us what happened. But if it's going to be a breakdown in how we communicate as a group, something's going to have to come
I don't
to light.
actually know who has more to lose from that conversation being public to the rest of the group.
I also don't think that Raidion really. We knew this conversation was coming because we know what the last episode happened. In the
Of course
last
you did.
episode.
And I just have to say, I did my maths wrong. It's 180 hours. Carry on.
I was doing the maths about it.
I was like, oh no, I dropped to zero.
I knew that conversation was coming. I was interested to see how it would play out.
That was the first time, like you had a... Are you happy to talk about this?
Yeah.
That you two had a chat before the episode started to sort of, I don't know, was it almost like to lay ground rules and to be like, I'm gonna pull, like Love Island style, I'm gonna pull you for a chat, but it's nothing personal kind of thing. Was that sort of establishing like we can kind of go at each other and it's not gonna be, there's no hard feeling?
I think so. I think also just understanding like how is that conversation going to go, and like you basically said this is what this is. We know what that's about, right? We know what that conversation is going to be. And you said, I'm probably going to pull you for a conversation. I went, great, good. And then, you know, we do talk about our characters outside of...
We talk about, characters.
And we always kind of like hypothesize about how our characters would
But it wasn't us beat for beat saying this is what's going to happen.
No, we would never say what's going to happen in the thing.
No.
let's
You weren't
clarify that.
scripting it, but I think... Also, I mean, I don't think it's... You've said you walked into an atmosphere, right? I will say it is the most combative conversation that has happened so far in the campaign between two characters. I think that's fair, or the most hostile conversation. Yeah. And I think there is something to, like, we haven't talked about this in a long, long time, but setting expectations for your table. Like, this is not a table where certain things are going to fly because we've agreed that those things won't fly. And within that, if you're going to stretch the limits of what this table wants to do, I think it's really good to be able to go, hey, I think I'm really going to go on the offensive, either one of you. I'm going to really go on the offensive trying to find this out. And I think it's going to be big. And I think I'm going to, you know, whether I don't actually know the conversation that you had, whether you said, I think, you know, I'm going to go in really aggressively or whatever. I actually think that's a really useful thing to do, because so many of the characters have aspects of being self-inserts. Not all of them, I don't necessarily think, but a lot of the characters, and typically first characters, definitely are self-inserts. And therefore, if someone makes a kind of a character assassination or a genuine attack at one of the characters, it's quite hard. It can be quite hard sometimes for the player not to go, oh God, to just have a kind of visceral reaction of like, oh my God, like, I'm getting criticised. And so I think to set the expectation to be like, this is a character thing that we're going to do.
Completely.
Is a really, really healthy and useful thing to do. And it's something that I don't think people don't want to, some players love it. Like, I would imagine you, Ben, are the kind of player that I wouldn't necessarily need to lay down groundwork with.
Oh yeah, fine.
But other players, more than justifiably, don't want to be ambushed. Like, they don't, that's not their version of fantasy, and this is fantasy. And so I think it's a really healthy and important thing to be able to go, hey, just so you know, this is the temperature I'm going to be coming in at.
Yeah, and also like any sort of, you know, in film and TV, you have intimacy coordinators and you lay out what's okay and what isn't. I think appropriately, that's what that conversation was about, which was, okay, it was almost like, how hot are you coming in here? I even said, are you going to approach me about it immediately? And you were like, yes. And I went, okay, cool. So it meant that I could prepare myself and think about like how Raidion would react to it. So it just kind of feels more organic in that moment. So I'm starting to think about those things as well.
So you're not on the back foot.
Not on the back foot. Well. And also it means that I can prepare myself so it doesn't lose focus as to what we want, and also how much we want to reveal to the audience at this point, because it's a big question. Big questions you were asking. And as much as you want it to be characterful, as I said in the Action Surge last time, there's also plot involved, which is actually, there is some interesting things to reveal about Raidion and his relationship with you and his relationship with the owl, obviously.
And I mean the owl every time.
And so it's nice to just kind of have that in your arsenal ready, and also go, I'm going to have a go at you, but don't take it personally. And it was very heated. We get on as people, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, they do.
Sometimes.
They're always in each other's personal space.
You can't.
Not in a weird way.
Again, overshot the runway.
You can't asterisk it with "not in a weird way" at the end of everything weird you say.
No, I think that like I think they're the kind of things you can role play with friends in D&D. I wouldn't want to turn up at a table with new people for the very first time and go through something like that, because you actually haven't built up enough trust.
No.
And it's not, and it's, you know, and also that like there's going to be, we saw it in the previous episode with I and Elowen. There are disagreements sometimes at the table. There are different strategies, and we sort of maybe gone some way to resolving those things between characters. Maybe more conversations will happen, but like, you know, you have, there's a level of trust that everyone here wants the best outcome possible. And it's just about how do we get there, and do we necessarily agree on the path forward? But there's not, you couldn't have conversations like that in a group that didn't know each other and didn't trust each other and hadn't we couldn't have done episode 22. You know, we couldn't have got to where we got to on the top of the sanctum with people who didn't trust each other, that they were going to create a sort of space in which that was possible.
It's just super interesting between your two characters especially. I'd argue it's not the closest, because it's almost impossible to get close to Raidion anyway, because emotionally all over the place. But you two are definitely as thick as thieves. If any two people aren't going to go off and do something or want to poke at something or want to try something, it is nearly always you two.
You have to ask why.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that like, okay, now those two people are, I don't think you're at each other's throats. You can't even apparently be near each other.
Yeah.
And in a group of 5, It's an awful lot of distance we can put between you.
Parvis is there as well. Parvis is there as well.
With a group of 6, it's not that much.
Wow, there is real drama.
Just a little. Don't know where you got it from, but that popcorn gnome's back. He's got some popcorn.
Oh, fun. And I mean, the very first thing that we began with was the message back to the spinner.
I might regret that one day.
Yeah, which was real,
just-
real fun.
Oh,
and
no,
you
no,
said,
I
and
love
I'd
it.
like to clarify something, and I don't think we need to clarify it in game. When you say you dropped the the sending stone,
I still have it.
you still have it.
I
You,
think
so you
it's-
didn't drop it on the floor. You
Oh, I
dropped it.
thought you
toyed
did. I
with-
thought you were like, nah, bollocks to it.
I toyed with like either trying to destroy it or throwing it away.
You have
but-
2 anyway,
Yes,
don't
I
you?
do.
You have
You destroy it and you have a new bag. Nice try.
you have yours and you have
Morgan's.
You have Morgan's and Casper's, or do you have yours and Morgan's?
No, because so the Spider Prince and the Spinner gave me one.
That's it.
Yeah,
And
in
then I
that
took
conversation.
one.
you had.
Casper had one. I don't think you ever
No,
checked.
I
You
don't
haven't. You
think
never
he
searched his
We
body.
didn't search his.
Yeah,
we didn't
Casper
search
had
Casper's
one.
body. I don't
Yeah,
think.
Casper had one.
We searched Medea's, but that was it.
We
Or maybe
did.
you
I
didn't
took
search
a
it
perfume
well
from him.
enough. Maybe you didn't search it well enough. Maybe I didn't think to put it in there. He was meant to have one. How the hell else does
I
he
didn't.
communicate?
Maybe we didn't roll high
Maybe
enough.
I didn't roll
Yeah,
high enough.
maybe.
I'm sure there was a reason for it, but
Maybe it
otherwise
fell
we're just
out.
collecting them at this point.
Three is
I,
too now.
I
Yeah.
never make mistakes. I made the biggest mistake I've made in the whole campaign so far because I just was caught off guard and was like told you about the tremor sense. And actually, it's the blind sight of this shambling mound. And I know it doesn't really matter, but it really annoyed me because it just breaks the verisimilitude of it. It's like, that's the perfect thing to tell you afterwards, or the perfect thing to tell you in action search. But when I give you information like that, it just felt, oh, how cool. It had 107,
Yeah.
you rolled 117 and it was just 3. But to me, that's just a mistake. That's just like
That's not that big a mistake.
no, it's not. It's not game breaking. But I think as a DM, you like it's my responsibility, and we muddy the water sometimes with action surge and stuff. But it's my responsibility to keep things from you as much as to reveal things to you. And I think in the middle of that was not the moment to go, oh, by the way, you nearly died. It would have, once you got away from it, maybe, oh, by the way, you nearly died. If you were back up on the thing, I said, just want to let you know, by the way, you that thing had blind sight up to 120 feet and you got 117. You were so close to being away from it without having to roll any stealth. That's fun. But I don't know, it just felt like
Genuinely,
just a
I
mistake.
don't think we would have done anything different. I think we would have seen it gone, oh my God, we wouldn't have gone, wonder what its blind sight is.
Yeah.
You would have seen
Yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
said it's close. We would have,
Tried
I
to see
imagine,
Yeah.
done what we've done
I'm
anyway.
I'm
So-
sure you would have. It's
Yeah.
just like, I guess it's just, I'm just sort of trying to make a point of like acknowledging that I'm making mistakes because I think it's good. Like I
Hey,
think
we all do. Yeah, because like what was it, the Hank thing? I forgot that he can't be restrained as well.
Yeah, because I don't have his
forgot that.
stats up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
don't.
could
I
use
forgot that he
throwing
had a stat
inspiration.
block.
I think
I
it
was
might
just
be
like,
worth
what?
printing his stat block out and having it
think
next
so.
to you on the
Yeah,
table
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just such a.
It's in Tosh's-
You don't think about it until you think about it. You know.
Yeah.
Make him a
Make him
little
a little Hank.
Oh, or
That
you
would
can
be
take one of
great.
my. You can take one of my. These are my monster cards.
Yeah, I'll make you a Hank
That would
card.
be great.
Yeah, I'll make you a.
You know what I think's really cool, Harry? I used to, when I was like 11.
Specifically.
Well, no, seriously. That's what I remember. Anyways, I used to sit for hours and pore over the monster manual.
Yeah.
The original one.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I loved it. I would just read all about these different monsters. And I love that the 2 creatures that we encountered today were from the original.
That's why I looked at you and
Monster
he said
manual.
purple
I
worm. 'Cause
know.
I swear you. When did you mention
I've
that
mentioned it
last?
several
Really
times.
mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is actually I think it was someone else's homebrew that found it's a reduced threat purple worm. So the actual purple worm is challenge rating 15.
That is similar to how I
Whoa.
pictured the boy. He's got more spikes than I pictured.
Challenge rating 15, and you are not ready for challenge rating 15. We can talk now about what happened when we were on the BBC Breakfast ages and ages and ages and ages ago. Right, so we were on BBC Breakfast for like 9 seconds.
Is D&D competitive? Can you win?
Not really. Okay, thanks so
Oh,
much.
that's
Bye.
Who's winning?
Shout out to those of you who woke up early to watch it.
Unbelievable effort.
But what we did was we just used it as an opportunity for me to put you up against. You're such a difficult group to balance for. I've spoken about this before. The ability spread that you all have is everyone apart from Dolly is stronger than standard array, and Kelnis is pretty much standard array, almost plus Dolly's stats again. So he's almost as powerful as 2 characters. So essentially it means you're kind of a party of 6, and challenge rating is meant to indicate a party of 4. So 4 level 15 characters should be able to fight and kill a purple worm.
Okay.
It makes it really challenging to balance for you, because if I put something that hits for tons of damage in order to frighten you and make it difficult, originally Dolly, now Raidion, will die. And if I make something that has a super high AC, Kel might be able to hit it, but other people might not be able to hit it. And so I found it difficult. So what we used at BBC Breakfast was I just put you up against, it was 4 of you because we didn't have Ben, unfortunately.
It was actually really good practice.
It was really good practice.
fun.
I think you fought a challenge rating 7, then an 8, then a 9, then a 10, and you just killed everything.
I rolled really well.
Helpful, I think, and I'd actually be keen for us to do it again over some, drinks or whatever in an evening. The thing of just doing it quickly, forgetting any role play, really,
just being like, how do the mechanics work? How do the
mechanics
mechanics work?
Was really, really helpful.
Yeah. And so there is a little bit of me that thinks maybe you could beat a purple worm, but you would definitely lose at least one person to permanent death. So the purple worm has an armor class of 18 and it has 247 HP.
Okay.
This thing had an armor class of 16 and 168 HP, so it has roughly 100 HP less.
I would have struggled with that armor class.
It has 80 HP less, and it has an armor class of 2 higher. And actually, that means that 3 or 4 attacks that just about hit would have missed. This I gave it an extra attack for action economy, and fortunately for you guys, I think it missed on one of them. So I gave it 2 tail stingers rather than 1.
Yes, it did. 1 missed.
I said this was about challenge rating 8. I think that's about right. In the original, it has a plus 14 to hit. This thing had a plus 6. So it hits pretty much every time. The bite on the original is 3d8 plus 9, 6d6 acid, and a dexterity saving throw or DC 19 not to be swallowed. This, we never got this far, but you might know, I mean, you said being digested. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, you must
So
remember of rounds,
at the beginning
right?
of each of the purple worm's turns, anything inside it on our version would take 3d6 of acid damage. It takes 6d6 in the original. And the problem that you have on a mechanical level as a player is you drop to 0 HP, right?
Yeah.
It's your turn. You roll a death save. You fail. It gets to the purple worm's turn. It automatically does damage to you. 2 death saves. You're dead.
Yeah, of course.
So within 1 round of going into that of going down to 0 HP in a purple worm, you have a 50% chance of permanent death.
How'd you get out?
Okay. This is a thing about the purple worm that I don't really like, and I changed it. 30 damage or more on it's now on a single. Oh, is this the 2014? It used to be on a single turn from a creature or on a single attack. From a creature inside it, if you do 30 damage, it makes a DC 21 Constitution saving throw and will regurgitate on a fail. So if you can, I dropped that to 20 and you did 18.
That's why you whispered he could do it.
He could do it, and I went, now he won't because I saw a 2 on one of your things.
But even then, when you're out, you're prone.
Out, you're prone, but you're out, and you can heal, and you can do all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So, and then I also added a blighted condition to it on the tail stinger.
And that's the thing. I didn't use heroic inspiration on my thing. I could have.
Oh, you could have.
And I could have still failed it, but I didn't. And now I'm blighted again. Love that for me.
Could, if, for instance, Dolly has Dimension Door, could Dolly cast Dimension Door and get out of there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah.
she could.
If I could, I could visualize a spot outside of it.
Yeah. That's really fun. There was a really, really early episode of NADPOD where someone got swallowed by a great big snake and someone used gaseous form to go into the nasal chamber of a snake and then drop gaseous form. And it was a ridiculous. They were like, you'll both die if you get this wrong. And it worked. And they went back to a full-sized human inside the nasal cavity of a snake, which then sort of... it just sort of forced it to like sneeze and vomit everything out. So I'm up for shenanigans, but the problem with the purple worm is like, it's kind of got no eyes, it's kind of got no nose, it's kind of got no ears. Like there's nothing to get in other than that great big mouse.
I thought about teleporting out with Hank, but in the description for the teleportation thing, you have to be able to see the spot that you want to
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, and it specifically says you're blinded. It's not even like you can do the old newspaper test and just try and spread its body really thin.
Window to success.
If you were able to. Do it.
But yeah, that was actually a really fun fight.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying, and if he was able to see, like, he would have done damage as well on that teleport, like from the inside, like
I mean, I think the purple worm it's like a proper iconic monster. And this was like a little one. This was like a little diddy one.
I always hated the purple worms. I mean, in a nice way, but I think they've always freaked me out because there was this movie. I don't know if any of you have seen it or if anybody's seen it. It was called Squirm.
No.
And it was, I saw it in black and white. I think it was originally in color. But it was like one of those trauma type films.
1976 American horror film.
Yeah. And it was, so I saw it on TV. I must have been about 8. And I was watching it with my older brother. And it traumatized me for life. I hate squirmy things. Because it's called a squirm. And these worms are like little purple worms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I want to see it now.
But I'm watching it on YouTube at the moment.
Are you looking? Is everyone looking at it?
This was the night of the crawling terror. Squirm.
Oh
my God!
No. Okay. Shall I show this to the? Shall I show this to? No, I don't know if people will want to see this. Actually,
no, that's body horror.
It's pretty grim. It's body horror. It's like worms forcing their way into the face of a man on a boat, and as he's coming,
No, ma'am.
Horrible.
Like a bit of body horror. Just Google squirm and you'll be able to see it.
Squirm, brutal worm attack, 1 of 2.
Not a fan of worms. After
that, so I always thought the purple worm was just
a really horrifying idea. We got a bit. It's a funny one, Elvelian, because I wasn't sure what you were going to do. Shall I tell you? I mean, you're now going out of. How much would you like to know about where the gloam were? Do you want to know where the gloam were? Do you want to know what was going on?
Come on.
Okay, so
this is what action shows is for, as far as I'm concerned.
Where were the gloam?
The gloam were in. I can read you the files of the leader, which if you'd decide to try and take anything from the table or steal anything. Initial searches of the immediate area have proved fruitless. We have now widened our search to the archives, which is the library. And then I'm not going to say the name of a little group because I think that's too much information. Have made for the virtuous hall, and then another group have begun a search of the area surrounding the archives. Enlightenment. So Malakin's Folly was like a globe-style theatre, where people would tell stories and all this kind of stuff. And there is a theatre for you to explore, and there are gloam in that theatre trying to. Essentially, the gloam knew that themselves had made some kind of cave or something that allowed access. It doesn't take you right to the old dark. I think it was slightly muddied in the previous ep, but I did explicitly say it before. It takes you near to the old dark. It takes you to the 4 forests, and from there, if you know where you're going, you can get to the old dark. It doesn't take you right in, but what it does allow, if you can figure out where both sides of this gate are, you can
scatter back and forth
undetected. And so they were trying to figure out which of the virtuous themselves was closest to. And themselves worked with Malakin quite closely. And so they were in the theatre, and they worked quite closely with Ristrin, who would have been near the archives, near the kind of library in the area where you'd access knowledge, and then they all would have something in Enlightenment.
I was also very aware that my suggestion spell would have worn off on that glow member.
Oh yeah, they know. Yeah,
he told
they're
everything.
Onto you.
Yeah,
well, I don't think I said this in the action. I don't think it occurred to me until the action surge after action surge last time. But we were talking about. I think Ben, you said something like, "Well, Raidion just would have slept there." and seen what happened, that spell would have worn off in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you would
That'd
have
been fun.
Would have been really cool to did I say this, to like wake up with
I think
throat?
you
I don't think I
spoke to
said
me.
it.
I think we might have said it out there. In a
Yeah, it would have been
casual
really
kind
cool
of-
to have been like, tell us who you really are, spears up against the throat. But yeah, so that's what we had in Alvelion, and I didn't know which of those places. You never said like, no one was ever explicitly. It's hard to know how much to kind of like railroad and to give you information for free. But none of you were ever like, I want to sort of really scour the area and figure out if there are any large structures that we could maybe head towards. The only person who did that was Elowen, and we got this little insight into her sort of family's history with the area.
I felt like it wasn't necessary really,
Wasn't
because
whether
we
you
had
were there for.
we had an immediate goal, and
We did know about it, didn't we? That it
we
was
need-
there.
Yeah, and it was like we had a guide, and also you were like, there are scary things out there,
Yes.
so you don't want to. And
Yeah.
and it felt like we were always being almost like funneled in, and there were just dangers. So actually, practically, we would just kind of need to get there, and it wasn't railroading. Also, if you think about it visually, it's like Alvelion is a city that is not alive anymore; it's dying. So it's a relic of the past that is so at odds with Barun, which is just so full of life. This is just deserted, and it felt like those. I really like. Have you seen the Power Rangers movie?
With Ivan Ooze.
Yes.
I think it's the first film I remember seeing at the
Cinema.
and I remember me and my dad went, and I remember thinking like, my dad's so lucky. He must be loving this.
Yeah.
This is such a great film. I think I was 4 or 5.
He gives a performance well above what that film
Oh,
should.
yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
Ivan Ooze's performance in that is so good.
I implore you to go and watch the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie.
That's the second one.
I think it's just called the Power Rangers movie.
It's called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the
It's
movie.
so good.
Or at least it was in
Yeah,
the US.
it's so good. It's so good. And anyway, they go to this jungle area where they go and have to get the
Where
old,
you see the most beautiful woman.
the most beautiful woman, who kind of turns up and is like an old ninjutsu warrior, and they have to go and get the new Power Ranger powers. And I think I used to love that as a kid because I love those places that were like so full of history, and you described it as like old magic, created by old magic. And even though this is a very kind of like in the Power Rangers film, it's a very kind of like jungle area. I am always so fascinated by the kind of almost like destroyed ruins that are still kind of almost like fizzing with magic that have always existed there. And it felt like we were passing through, and there was something quite melancholic about the whole journey. I mean, very FromSoft, but like very like there was once history here in that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Faded beauty kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It always felt like inverse Minds of Moria as well. That feeling of
that's
going,
cool.
sort of like the dangers coming in here and like, right, we have to get up the stairs to like go along this.
I feel
You know the
like
guy who played Ivan Ooze is also in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
What?
Or is it Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or it might be Last Crusade. This is Ivan. This is the guy who played
No.
Ivan.
No
This is the
way.
actor Paul Freeman. He's still working.
That's
He was-
Ivan Ooze!
Yeah, I had no
Whoa.
idea. He was he most recently he's been in films as recently as 2023. That's so cool.
I think if we had wanted to investigate Alvelion, I think I would have been like, absolutely not. We know
No,
where
yeah.
we're supposed to be going. I'm
We know
looking for
that-
my
we know
tribe.
the
What the hell,
Glomar.
guys? It's not a field trip.
Yeah.
We know that the Gloam are close to finding it, so we just need to get there.
You're
Yeah.
like, we've dragged our heels long enough. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Also-
The idea that we then like go and have a look around is wild, quite frankly.
I know my first action is not going to be anything, like I can say it now, 'cause it's not going to be a big spoiler. My first action the next time we're back at the table is to wipe the blood marks off the
Oh yeah.
off the markings, because
Oh, yeah.
out of
Yeah.
curiosity, would it have just required me putting a claw to, or would it have required the blood? Or did you think in that
It was
moment?
blood. It was blood, and it themselves is all about the kobolds.
Yeah.
So it has to be members of at least 2 tribes.
Yeah.
So there has to be because themselves knows that the kobolds are incredibly isolationist, even amongst their own tribes.
Yeah.
Be one.
It
needs
would
to be a bit of connection.
There needs to be like a sense of for the greater good of kobold kind.
You know what? I
Hands across
also
the divide.
weirdly like that because I think themselves and Parvis are kind of a standoff. Themselves doesn't understand why Parvis would go off and not be part of tribe and do his own things. He's like, fine, you'll just never be able to get in.
Yeah,
'Cause you're
yeah.
alone.
Never told I mean, like the fact that Parvis didn't know how to get in. I mean, it just, for me is about this like genuine, like deep deep schism that exists between the two of them. Like, I think
It just made me think
The worm
of that.
again.
Oh, the worm.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to use your stomach rumbling sometimes, right? But I remember Grawnoth saying to you, I won't be able to get this verbatim, but he said something like, you know, for all of Ulin's faults, I do not believe she would ever lie to me. You know, that
Well, I hope not as the God of truth.
Yeah.
but also that there's this sense that, like, the Antiqua and their gods were, you know, as exemplified by the fact that their life force was inherently bound to the other, they are kind of symbiotic. You know, they are, and beyond that, there's like a deep, deep trust and emotional connection. And they're just, there is not that. It's the thing, you learnt it in episode 2, when they were rounding on themselves, and themselves was, so they were rounding on Parvus, and Parvus was like, you know that we've been estranged from each other. Like, there's no lines of communication open. And the fact that themselves, either out of spite or out of genuine mistrust and fear for the kobolds, never revealed how to get into their own Antiqua.
Sad. But then
Yeah,
I'd argue-
it is. But it, you know, it's like there's real work to do. Like there is going to be, if you make it to the old dark, if there's real work to do. Like, this is going to be more than, like, you know, roll me a persuasion with advantage. Parvus is also there. Okay, it's fixed. You know?
I wonder which way or where I now kind of falls on that kind of Venn diagram.
Yeah,
of, like,
where's I's head at?
like, if themself represents old ways of
of
thinking,
the world,
and Parvis represents this kind of new way of thinking.
Old and New Testament.
Where are
really.
you now moving through this kind of orbit? Because I'd argue you've come far closer to where kind of Parvis
Parvus
is
is instinctively how
than
I
you were when we started this.
I don't want to say anything.
If we get to episode 90 and you've still got your cards close to the chest.
You have 65 episodes to tell.
I am hoping for a conversation with themselves soon. And I want that moment to be the first moment that anything kind of hits the table.
Sure. Sure.
I'd like to
You
get
want
a
your
blind.
punch drunk 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Do you want to make sure this one's not in the room who also speaks Draconic Goblin?
Yeah.
amazing.
What is your expectation for what you're walking into now?
No idea.
Just one hell of an abandoned tunnel.
I expect to meet Drista Erden.
And who's that?
Oh, well, Drista Erden.
He's
From the
drow.
R.A. Salvatore novels.
Okay.
Do you not know
Dry
Drist?
Ranger.
No.
That's fine.
No.
He's a drow ranger who has
Oh, is this from the kind of canonical
Yes.
D&D books?
who has a black panther.
Oh wait, we've got the Funko Pop
got
of it
the
in the other
Funko
room.
Pop.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
He's a drow ranger. He fights with two
Willies.
scimitars.
Scimitars. I was close. I was
and
close,
he's
but I
got
was
this
I see.
black panther as a animal companion.
Yeah.
Whose name is
Gwynhvar.
That's right. Yeah, Gwynhgar.
How do you know this?
Because we just did a Funko advert.
We
where,
literally did the Funko
I knew
ad.
it before.
I wasn't there. I left out. I left.
did.
You didn't
I knew
stay.
this from a moment where Neil is playing the D&D one shot, and he comes forward, and Neil clocks who this character is before, and as the description starts to happen, you see him going. And so then I went off and researched who that character was that he was reacting to.
Sometimes as a DM, you know the least about.
I know, the brand partnership.
It's a great series of books. Everybody
I'm
who's
familiar with the
watching and
author's name.
listening.
The author's name.
R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah. Who was like the writer, right? The kind of
He's
preeminent.
one of the kind
yeah.
of godfathers of
Yeah.
the D&D fantasy
Yeah.
writing.
I'm more excited about where this tunnel sort of spits us out because we haven't been to this forest before, but we've certainly been told there's some stuff in this forest for certain people.
I'm so intrigued to see if there's actually is like a tunnel in the way that we know it.
Yeah.
Portal.
Yeah.
Portal, yeah.
Portal.
We've gone in the mouth and we're going to come out of the...
Ass.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it feel good to
Unzip Cal.
unzip? Yeah.
You know, ask Keller if it felt good
It was
to
a strong mental.
Yeah.
You degloved that worm.
You did deglove a worm. Thank you, Ben. That was lovely.
Ew.
I remember. I can't remember if it was in the live show I was in or if it was just in an episode that they did. But Johnny Chiodini describing someone as taking degloving damage, which is as horrible an image as I've ever. What a twisted mind.
Oh my god.
No.
Yeah, so
Another
please.
episode where we didn't break the curse.
the curse of the dice
Oh, this
turn.
is nice.
This thing is rotten to the
I roll something right now?
Why are you
Who's
still
it?
using it? No, it'll work now.
12 with mid.
12.
Yeah.
But like I rolled how many nat ones in a row in
Three
the
at
practice? Like
least.
3 in a
Yeah.
row. Like it's just
It's
low.
so
It's just low. But now it's obviously because this
Because we're
tower
not-
You can
It
hear
doesn't
us.
matter.
It's
Yeah.
contrary.
Yeah.
It's on,
Gaslighting.
It's gaslighting.
it's on
There's nothing at
camera.
stake.
It's on camera going, no, see, it's you,
No,
not me.
it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's being a real dick right now. It's just on like 15, 18. I'm like, yeah, could have done with that. But on a like this little cursey
Yeah.
Cursey,
Very close.
Cursey tower, I don't like. But I think, and I'm sure there's some stats somewhere of, I have a +7 to attack rolls.
Yeah.
And I think I have probably, and maybe it's just, again, a chromatic orb thing. Every time I do a chromatic orb, I think I have failed.
You're really bad at chromatic orb.
Really, really bad at it. And it's a really cool thing. And that's why most of my spells that I have are save throws, which it's like,
Mine
yeah.
too.
I just want it to bounce. I just want it to actually, because like every time you have done it successfully,
I just want it to hit.
it's either bounced and there's been no one to bounce it
I have
to,
a
and I'm so
+7.
sad.
Between that and hypnotic gaze, it's just like
What is your typical modifiers, all of you? Like, what do you have 18 in intelligence?
Yeah.
And you have 20 in strength?
Yes. and
20 in wisdom? 20 in dex?
Yeah.
And
18. in
18.
charisma.
So you're working with a +7. Radian's working with a +7. And the other 3 of you are working with +8s.
I'm +9s because I'm
Oh,
using
+9s
magical
because you're
weapons.
using magical weapons. And
so
you have a
my dagger
+9
and
because
my
of your
short
magical...
sword.
So we're rolling real low.
You're rolling bad.
That's what
yeah.
if- when
I mean,
I-
I'm very,
when I
very,
miss-
very rarely putting you up against anything with an AC higher than 17.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
If I'm missing, that's wild when you think my attacks are all +9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though Vex is proving to be delightful at the moment.
Oh, that was a lovely
great.
discovery that it goes across your.
It's never had
end
to
of your
happen
turn.
before because you always use it on the dagger roll.
Yes, and then but you have your opportunity attack. You suddenly get to Vex. on
Yeah,
the next
then
one.
that because I don't get a lot of opportunity attacks. It's very rare that something moves out of my space. I'm more likely to move out of its, and I do that using my nat 20 or my 19.
It's quite fun to. It's quite fun to DM something like a purple worm sometimes. I try. I don't know if it always works. I think combat is the part of D&D. I mean, rules. I still like. There's still lots of the rules that I find tricky, but like, combat is the part of D&D that I think I have to work the hardest at
It's 'cause
at
it's so,
making dynamic.
it's so noodly though.
It is really
So
noodly.
much
Like I feel like I can world build and I can role play with you guys and I can scene set and I can do story, and that's all fun. And then every now and then I can throw in like a fun little skill check or unusual kind of atypical combat thing. In terms of making combat really fun and dynamic and different, it's something that
It's because there's so much to hold in your head.
yeah, and it's like you're still trying to describe stuff and you're trying to make everything feel epic. And also, we should say we didn't have any music for this game.
Oh, it's so weird.
Which is so weird. So we have like the computer. It makes it sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but believe me, this is true. The computer died just before we started. We recorded our BTS stuff, and then
We're about to go into the
we're about to go
episode.
into the app, and
Guys were like, the
the guys
audio's
were like,
gone.
nah,
That's it.
it's not working, and the whole thing just crashed. So my little stream deck is just sad and alone. I've got nothing on it, and when we first started playing, I'm trying to think how early into the show we got music. I think it was around
Quite late.
Quite late.
12
it
or
was. We haven't had it
13,
that
sometime around then, around the fight with
You
the
were
Gloam.
because you were able to use the Gloam whistle in episode
Yes.
13. So
Great.
you must have
So
been
it must
around.
be- I
So it
think
must have
was
been around like
13.
12 or 13. That was when since then we've had music.
Yeah.
And I had said to you guys before in those first 12 eps, oh, you know what, I do miss having music. I do find it a bit weird sometimes playing without music. That's as nothing as it is to having music one day and the next day not having music. I think it contributed actually to that tension and that feeling of discomfort in the room in those difficult conversations because there's no sort of gentle, there's no sort of underscoring. There's nothing to break that tension and to fill that space. And it's really, it's really weird. It
Oh, and
certainly,
you two having to stare
certainly
off.
threw me off. Like, certainly threw me off at times.
Highlighting that we got that around 12, 13, just highlighted to me that next episode we will be as far from Castle Grenweird as Castle Grenweird was from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It feels like the second half has gone way faster.
It feels like that to me as well. I mean, I guess because in the first,
I think it's been more intense.
you spent quite a few. I'm trying to think what you did.
It's because we're getting better at it.
You did Atria for 2. You did Festival of Benediction, and
It's all the Yannick stuff.
you
Is
did
anyone wearing the
Yannick.
t-shirt?
Yeah,
No,
Yannick.
because
Yeah, the
the
t-shirt
back
will tell you.
We spent about 5 episodes in Baroon.
Yeah, lots and lots of time in
Yeah.
Baroon. Baroon's the longest you've stayed anywhere because there was just so much to
city.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, I
How many
think
houses to burn?
So many houses to burn. So many tieflings to let down.
So much trellising to fall off.
So much trellising, so little patience.
I think if you're trying to establish something as the city of a place, I think just spending one episode in and leaving is kind of
Yeah.
so it does make sense.
Kind of like Vale,
So
like-
yeah,
It's the
so
big,
sad. I
Yeah.
have to go back to Vale at some point when it's all
when it's lit up, kind of.
Yeah.
I want to party in Vale.
Vale's
for sure.
We can light it up with fire.
No, we're not
Burn
setting
more
fire
stuff
to another
there.
place.
Setting fire to Vale. It was beautiful.
Infernal radical.
I don't think you do.
That's a lot.
Don't think you do. No, I want to party so hard in Vale.
Yeah.
I remember what I was saying, which was combat is tricky, but I'm trying to use, particularly when you're using spellcasters and stuff, you're trying to create like interesting dynamics and what's the motivation? Will they run? Reduce threat, purple worm, or just a purple worm. I just read it verbatim like Ron Burgundy. It's dumb. It doesn't care if you hit it. It's just trying to eat things. And actually, sometimes it's quite fun to just be like, it's just going to go for the nearest thing,
Big beast.
and it's going to go for this thing because you did damage to it, and it heard your footsteps, and it's like, other things are hitting me, but I just want to go for that thing that sounds the biggest because it's probably the most nutrient dense. Like, do you know what I mean?
We had some fun with it. Like even just finding out about the ceiling stuff would have been great. It not being able to come up and eat you immediately was kind of fun. You not being able to throw yourself down the hole was probably great.
I love how much negotiation you attempted to have with me.
I just
Well,
want to
actually,
throw
I was
myself
just
in the hole.
stalling because I was just like, do I have anything that isn't anything you can see within range?
And bounce anything down the hole.
Yeah. Because we talked just outside, you have Fireball, and
Yes.
there's a chance that could have happened, but it's...
I wasn't really willing to risk it. And also, I use Fireball a lot. Like, I think it's a spell, obviously, that is useful, but it's also just a bit, like, it's very practical, but I feel like I use it too
You
much.
don't want to do the same thing all the
No,
time.
I feel like
I
it's a
don't.
little
All right.
passé.
I don't.
Right
I'm
now.
really-
Hang on, there's a big difference. There's a big difference.
There's a huge difference.
Hide. Slash, stab. Slash, stab. That's what they're built for, baby.
Yeah,
Let
that's
them be
literally
who
what
they
you
Take your way
are.
out of the worm next time.
Yeah.
That's how, but
Yeah.
that is how you are meant to function. Whereas like a wizard, I
know.
literally
Meant to be
have
massive
so
utility.
many spells,
Not gonna spam.
and so it's like I need to figure out what's interesting and what's flavorful, but also what's going to do damage. And
You did at the beginning.
I mean, no, I did damage throughout the whole thing. I mean,
no,
that's a
it's a
great
cool
little
new spell.
Phantasmal Killer's great.
Oh, yeah, Phantasmal Killer is fun.
If you'd passed any of those checks, it would have stopped the spell. So.
Yeah, but it just failed
But it
every
just
time.
kept failing.
And it has an 8 in wisdom, but its proficiency has a proficiency bonus of +4, and it's proficient in wisdom saving throws. It has the most lopsided stats, I think, of anything I've ever thrown at you. Its intelligence is a 1. Its charisma is a 4. Its dexterity is a 7. Its wisdom is an 8. Its constitution is an 18, and its strength is 23.
So any spells involving wisdom or intelligence saving throws would have just...
Yeah, and that's even the proper one keeps all of those low stats, but the constitution becomes 22 and the strength becomes 28. With a 9 and with a 5 in proficiency. So it's like I said, it's a +14 to hit. It is absolutely disgustingly powerful.
Yeah, we wouldn't have.
No, no, and it's also not the right place. And we've kind of talked about this before. In fact, I think you do have to be mindful as a DM that that encounter was kind of always going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I can't force you into an encounter where I'm like, one of them's probably going to die. You have to make a choice, even if that is just the choice that the narrative has sent you on. Oh my goodness, we're gonna fight Barabask. We're gonna need to be real brave. You walk into that, if you do get to a point where you fight Barabask, you're gonna walk into that room being like,
We're ready.
we might die. One of us might die, and actually, that is why we're here. I don't want to be like
to die to a random
a random encounter emerges from the floor. 3 of you are dead. Like
Yeah,
it's very much like how I imagine it might be to like DM for your friends when you're 10 and just be like, I just wanted to try and kill him and I did. So what? I rolled a 1. Yeah, it was a 14. You know. So yeah, so much to discover in the next episode. But you're sort of out of Alvelian at least.
It's so sad. I was, in any other way, I just love to have been able to explore it so much
I
more
wanted to
freely.
go find a mall.
Yeah. Oh, you did mention that to me. Did you mention that to me on or off camera? Where you were like, I really want to find, find a mall, and I was like,
see what food they've got.
Let me see if I can get. I said, let me see if I can get you a food court.
I think I said to you, I want to find a mall and go to Claire's and get some new dangly stuff.
Should we roll you some poems?
Yeah, I think on that.
Yeah. Oh, and I get to talk about my favourite bit. What was my favourite bit? I like that we had a conversation with people outside the room. We haven't done it in such a long time. It's full of sort of difficulty and discomfort, and I thought that was real fun. And yeah, I just like being a purple worm. I like being a big purple worm. Thanks.
Would you love me if I was a worm? Yes.
Would you love me if I was that big?
We'd love you if you were a worm.
Well, that's a relief. That's a blessed relief to hear.
You can relax this evening now knowing that. Safe in that knowledge.
Thank goodness. That'll keep me warm on the train home.
That we'd love you if you were a worm.
Right. Is anyone ready to reveal their score?
Yeah.
Let's begin. Let's begin with a disappointed look at Anisha Wilson.
65.
65. It's not a lot, but it's not nothing.
92.
92.
Respectable.
Decent.
91.
91. You're getting so close to breaking that 3 figures, Doug.
I've yinged and I've yanged. I'm 53.
53 is poor.
I thought mine was bad. Mine's a 61.
61. Again, a rare episode in which no one breaks 100.
So did my 92 end up being that?
You're
One more than
92
Cal.
is the highest.
You're the definition of
Sorry,
best
mate.
of a bad bunch. You're Ronan Keating, baby. Right, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Action Surge. We'll be back very soon. And I do hope you'll join us for episode 26 and more adventures in the world of Reliquia. D&D, baby!